Well, let's prove that you don't need expensive tools to make something by making a designer chair just using the Swiss Army knife. Now, you might have some questions about this project, like what does he consider expensive tools? And how is he going to do this? And maybe why the Swiss Army knife of all tools to choose? Well, I'm going to hopefully answer these questions along the way, but full disclosure here, I don't actually own a Swiss Army knife. So we're going to have to go online, buy a Swiss Army knife, then hopefully I'll be able to prove to you that you don't need expensive tools to make something.
Now, it surprised me how many variants there were of the Swiss Army knife. And then I came across the Champ XXL.
Holy crap! Look at that! Oh, that's over the top, man. Look at that. It's got like posi drivers. No, too expensive. Ooh, the Handyman looks good. Not too big. It's got a file. It's got a saw, knife, potential. Yep, yeah, that's gonna work.
For only about $60, it was gonna do everything I needed it to do.
Okay, our Swiss Army knife has been safely delivered, and it is awesome. Now, you might be wondering what type of chair we're gonna build. Well, I came across this design on the internet, I printed it out, and I'm thinking we're gonna go with this design. Now, whilst we're waiting for this to arrive, I also came up with a plan.
Right, first step, buy some cheap materials. We don't want that to stop us building things, not having the money to buy decent materials, so we're just gonna go cheap. Step 2 is to use our Swiss Army knife to cut some beautiful woodworking joints. Once our joints have been precisionally cut with our Swiss Army knife, we're going to assemble this bad boy. And then I'll be the smug a-hole relaxing in his chair that proved that you don't need expensive tools to make something. Right, cheap materials. You can't go past some shitty construction pine. It was gonna pay me to make it out of this wood, but it was just gonna have to do. Being that our picture had no dimensions or measurements, I measured my limbs and then calculated the dimensions from there. I then traced each part onto my workbench at a 1:1 scale. Now I did this to work out the joinery and to make a template. Then I just had to mark out the cuts and the joins and get to work. First up, I pre-cut all my joins with a little knife so I didn't screw it up.
Oh, done it on the wrong side.
Then using the saw blade, I made possibly the ugliest cut you've ever seen. But that wasn't going to stop me because I had a point to prove. And that point, I'm an idiot.
Oh God, why did I cut this wrong again?
Although I thought I was failing, I couldn't give up now. It was just a mistake, and I just had to work it out. And with each cut and join, I managed to get better and even impress myself.
That is awesome. I did that with the Swiss Army knife.
But despite my success, progress was slow and each join was taking a painstakingly long time. And there was just something getting to me. The power tools were starting to talk with me. And I know you're probably wondering at this point, why did you choose to do this with a Swiss Army knife?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, they didn't sponsor this video. No, I chose the Swiss Army knife for a couple of other reasons. The first of which is its history. I mean, this thing has nearly 140 years of research and development into this tool alone. And that's what makes this tool so great. It's so versatile. It also delivers on quality. I mean, I've been using this thing for days, cutting all sorts of horrible materials, and the saw is still sharp, the knives still cut perfectly. It's quality. Then you've got the price. It cost me about 60 bucks for this tool, and considering its quality and versatility, I think it's well worth the money spent. I mean, you could even build a chair with this thing. And last but not least, these are used by NASA astronauts. If it's good enough for NASA, it's good enough for me. Jeez, look at the time.
Yeah, and it was time to get on with this project. I'd screwed up. I'd put the crossbeam in the wrong place. Maybe they were right. Maybe you do need expensive tools to make something. I just had to accept that I made a mistake, and I had to put the crossbeam in place and deal with it.
So let's do that. There's always a silver lining to making mistakes, and in this case I was a bit worried about some of these joins being a bit loose, and by using the wedge tail eagle join here, it stiffened the whole frame up. So the next part is actually not gluing it up. We're going to do a bit of pre-sanding by hand, and then we'll glue this bad boy up, and we chillin', maxin', relaxin', and shooting some bebop after school before you know it.
Alright, so I hit each part with 120 grit. This took forever. An orbital sander would have saved me a whole frickin' day. Then finally it was time to glue the joints up, starting with this mitered finger joint. Then the lap joints, and finally the piece de resistance, my wedge tail eagle joints. To finish, I sanded it down using 240 grit until it was smooth as a baby's bottom. Next, we're going to have to get ourselves some oil, applying the white oil liberally onto the frame, and then wiped it off to reveal one sexy looking frame. We were almost there. We just had to create this webbing to support my skinny ass. Attaching the webbing was a quite simple process. I just stapled it in place, tensioned it, and then stapled the other side. The final step is to get some cushions for this bad boy. Now, if you're like me and have just recently murdered a giant teddy bear for your kid's Halloween costume, then feel free to use the stuffing from him. But otherwise, just head to your local homeware store and buy some cushions to fit. And there it was. A chair made nearly entirely by just using a Swiss Army knife. something you can be proud of. With only one more thing to do. Test it out.
So there you go, guys. I've proved you don't need expensive tools to make something. Except it's way funner using expensive tools. I mean, geez, it's fun. So if you want to see how much fun I have when I'm making things with expensive tools, go check out that video there.